world gone insane. An upside-down civilization that cannot be real. A world of madness and terror.
It's the Dana Gould Hour.
Today's show is brought to you by Casper. Get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana. And we're back. As I said, filming the TV show would not interrupt the podcast schedule in any way, shape, or form, except for the one massive interruption that did happen. But we are back. I don't know how you spent your summer vacation, but I spent mine working nights in a Georgia swamp, and it was pretty much the most fun I've ever had. The show, Stand Against Evil, is in the can, and we are editing it now, and it will premiere on IFC on Halloween night, and will then be rerun on November 2nd in its regular time slot of Wednesdays at 10 p.m. For today's podcast, it is big on funny and light on the Donald Trump, because I just can't do it. But Matt Braunger is here. Follow him on Twitter at @Braunger, Braunger, along with Arden Myrin. She's at @ARDENMYRIN, at Arden Myrin. And the lovely and talented Emma Arnold is here. Follow her on the Twitter at I am a road trip. Does this mean I'm not doing my door-to-door live comedy joke-telling show? Au contraire. September 22nd through the 24th, I will be in beautiful Toronto, Ontario at Just for Laughs. October 13th through the 15th, I will be back in beautiful Minneapolis, Minnesota at Acme Comedy, one of my favorite clubs in the country. And November 10th through the 12th, it's back to good old San Francisco, where I will be at the Punchline. For details on all of this malarkey, just toddle on down to danagould.com and check out my live performance schedule. And in the meantime, we are long overdue for a podcast, and I say we do this one.
Dana Gould Hour. An hour? You're right.
Settle back now, content, comfortable, well-fed, and ready for some fine entertainment. Is everybody happy? Then let's go. It's showtime.
My guest today, one of my favorite comedians in the whole wide world, a fine actor, a fine writer, Matt Braunger.
This is the sound of my voice.
Now, last night I was at The Cure, which I thought was an AIDS benefit, but
No.
it was the band.
I thought it was a cure for the blues kind of thing. I thought it'd be like
Not
up with,
that band.
I thought it'd be like Up with People or something.
No, now it's just a guy who looks like Betty White now with his hair dyed black, and
Or a photo negative.
he looks like a photo negative of Don King. but
Better.
But they were great. And someone was saying that it's they're so old. But people, that's only to rock and roll. People never like B.B. King. Yeah, I know B.B. King's old.
And look, I think that depends on what they did or what you like them for.
Yeah.
Someone was saying like they saw Van Halen and David Lee Roth still doing the kicks and all that jazz. And I'm like, wow.
Well, Pete Townsend is still jumping all over the goddamn place, and he's got to be in his late 60s, early 70s.
Yeah. And my thing, when I think of The Cure, I don't think of their pyrotechnic stage antics. I don't think of, it's like, I love Morrissey, but I miss the backflips.
Yeah, exactly.
I miss his handstands.
Yeah, they were
singing "Girlfriend in a Coma."
They were professional mopers when they were 24.
Yes,
there was called shoegazing. Their concerts were called shoegazing.
They were doughy 22-year-olds.
Yeah, that's right.
Because who cares? Why do you need muscle mass or anything like
you
that?
need to pick up a guitar, and it's even tied to your shoulders.
Yeah.
You don't even have to hold it up.
It's the only time I think of that stuff is when like you see a band that used to like hit crazy high notes and the guy can't really anymore.
Yeah,
and it's like, bodies deteriorate.
Yeah,
You're not going to be.
We're all
this
dying.
Shrieking, metal voiced guy your whole life. Like even like Fleetwood Mac can't. They can't. Kind of like, well, but still, it's them, and they hit all the notes, and the Cure, I think, were smart. Kind of just doing this kind of mopey melodic singing.
You can do that till the end of your life.
As long as it was catchy as all hell.
And it's not their fault that they do what they do.
Mm-hmm. Yes, no.
I'm sorry.
No.
I'm sorry. I'm over 45, but I'm still a pretty good musician.
Yeah, right. And and I'm old enough to remember like loving them, loving the Smiths, and being kind of a closeted fan.
Yeah,
There were those kids who were a little braver, who dressed like
you were a jock,
and stuff.
weren't you?
No, God, and I don't know how to define. I was more of just a big dork who. At one point, I was a skateboarder. At one point, I was always like a class clown.
Right.
But I just remember I would hang out with some of those guys and be like, I remember there were guys who were like your stylish jocks who were at the same time violently homophobic.
Yeah, no,
but loved the Cure.
Those were my friends, but they didn't love the Cure.
But they loved the Cure and Erasure and stuff. But they were like, they're like fags, but it's good.
Well, that was the
It was so weird.
It was, and that's what. And people have to realize when we were in high school, and I'm a little bit older than you.
Yeah.
That was just what they were. When I was in high school, the police were considered fags.
Oh, wow.
Quote unquote.
Sure.
Because they dyed their hair blonde.
Oh, right.
How could you possibly be a heterosexual? Well, meanwhile, this is what I love. 16-year-old idiot morons in Massachusetts calling Sting that word because he dyes his hair blonde.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, at that time, he had already slept with more women than any of us would in the entirety of our lives.
In our lives. All those guys.
I know. By that time, 2 albums
even the little stubby guitarist was, swimming in women.
Right. By Zenyatta Mondatta, they topped off
oh my God.
everybody in my high school.
Yeah. Well, and it's even that thing where you're not even...
And that's what the show is about. Yeah. The sad realization that the police, even early in their career, fucked more women than my friends and I in high school.
And you know what? It's freeing. It's freeing.
I'm owning it.
Do you really want to be that person that's just covered in diseases?
And people don't, again, that's only indicative to rock and roll. Like, I don't know, because I'm not a fan of this, but people are like, Conway Twitty, man, that guy got a lot of tail.
Right.
Man.
Yeah.
And it's never about the women. To Minnie Pearl, that woman got some cock in her time.
Well, and was there like the Mincy Cowboy singer who sang such ballads that women fell at his feet, but all the other cows were like, God damn it. That Hank Flowers is such a homo. Goddamn Hank Flowers. Well, I've been lonesome.
There must have been somebody
and he just
that.
He's like this Hank Williams the first, but just limp wristed. His guitar's too heavy. Just keeps having to put it down. Oh, my back.
He had to take up ukulele because his guitar
like a depressed Paul Lynde.
I think Paul Lynde was plenty depressed.
Yeah, no, good question. Good point.
Was there ever a really effeminate country western singer? That is interesting. I would think he would have been shot.
Infuriated the other man's men cowboy singers.
I think he might have been shot.
Probably.
But and there's that weird, there's that weird sexuality. I mean, it's so like metal is such a macho thing
that they dress like women.
Hair metal,
right?
There were members of Rat that were gorgeous.
Yes. Oh yeah. Absolutely.
And then the Judas, and then you like the Judas Priest guy. He's just a leather daddy,
right? Yeah.
And kids don't realize
Which was the most honest position to take.
But he didn't,
like if you're wearing lipstick and you literally have a woman's hair, you've turned your hair into a woman's hair,
and not your aunt's hair, like a hot chick.
You're wearing spandex that's torn, as if you've been the hot lady in a road warrior encampment running away from certain rape. Like, are you certain rape? Are you like
that? By the way, is the worst Chinese fortune cookie to ever get. 2 words for you: certain rape.
Oh. But
I have to tell you one of the funniest things I've ever heard in my life.
But I just finish my point. Okay, to dress like that, but also be extremely womanizing and treating women like crap and stuff, and kind of just still being this like, hey, girls ain't good for nothing but sucking my dick. Like sucking your what, lady? Like you look at the cover of Poison, look what the cat dragged in, and you're just like. So you were all collectively furious at your fathers. All of you.
Yes. And how much longer does it take you to leave the house than your girlfriend?
Yes. At least like New York Dolls were doing it to kind of piss off the world.
Exactly. Yeah. They were doing it. There was an irony to it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The hair metal thing was so bizarre. And then that was really, and I'm not sure if we talked about it. I know Jeff, our producer, Jeff Fox, you and I were talking about it, and I don't know if we mentioned it on the podcast or not, but that was the amazing thing about David Bowie, was he was, I don't know what you would call him, openly omnisexual.
Yeah.
But he was openly omnisexual in a way that even the meathead AOR rock fans accepted.
Well, I feel like he got the joke better than anyone in that you can, if you are a pop star, you can be anything. You can be an alien. If something came down from a spaceship in the 50s, it was like, oh, we do not recognize gender. They'd be like, oh, all right. Yeah, well, look at him. He's okay. He floats. What the hell am I going to say? Exactly. So he got that. He like cracked the code for sure. That's really true. In terms of that.
Perfect. Yeah, the puts are perfect.
In terms of that, because you had those guys at shows that would go see people in lipstick and be like, oh man, Rat rocks so hard, and they go outside and if they just saw a guy in a business suit putting on lipstick, they'd be like, homo. But it's like all the guys on stage have lipstick. Oh, you know what? If they're singing, it's fine.
But by the way,
there's nothing gayer than singing.
And this is over, by the way.
Yeah.
This is all. What's interesting is this is pretty much over.
Mm-hmm.
There are kids in junior high school that are gay,
right?
And I just
or transgender,
and I just like in my high school, which is within a lifetime.
Yeah, sure, sure.
I was like, you would have gotten murdered.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't mean beat up.
Yeah.
You would have gotten murdered.
Yeah. I remember seeing in college, I saw that movie Mr. Holland's Opus, which was shot at my high school.
Oh, really?
And I got that nostalgia you get in college for when you're,
sure.
I miss high school, blah, blah, blah. But like.
Boy, that is some nostalgia I never had, but you go right ahead.
Well, no, but it's just. I went from a great big high school and then went to a tiny college. It was momentary. I was with a lot of friends. I wasn't alone weeping.
You're a feeling man.
But that's true. But I'm putting on lipstick right now.
We're both putting on lipstick.
But
it's a sun-dappled summer day high above Mulholland Drive here at Falcon Lair Recording Studios, also known as my kitchen. I am joined by two lovely women who happen to be comedians, among many other talents. Please welcome, she has appeared over 743,000 times on Chelsea lately and has been on every episode of At Midnight, the lovely and talented Arden Myrin.
Hello. Hi, Dana.
Hi.
Dana's rocking a beard, everybody out there, and he looks very handsome.
And by beard, Arden means I'm with a young woman who's covering the fact that I'm a huge mo.
Hello, Monica.
Hi. Why is Dana always eating Altoids?
Shh.
He's got to keep that fresh breath for the boys.
No one wants to go to In-N-Out Burger with a dude who's got cock breath.
Not again. You fool me. So fool me thrice. Shame on me.
In-N-Out Burger, no pun intended. Mm-hmm. In-N-Out Burger is a great synonym for sex. Speaking of which, here's another member of the opposite sex. Very, very funny. I first met our next guest. I was performing in the Limestone Comedy Festival, and I was looking at the other performers, people that I didn't know, and I was looking at this one performer, and I was reading her bio, and she's a writer, so I thought that was interesting. And then I found out that she also kept bees, and I thought, I want to get to know this person. But she's an attractive woman. So immediately I think I'm going to talk to her. I'm going to get about 3 syllables out, and then my eardrums will be shattered by a blast from her rape whistle. So I tried my best to introduce myself in a non-threatening manner, and I'm proud to say we became fast friends. Please
after
welcome,
I maced you.
After a thorough industrial rinsing of my eyes.
Stranger danger, stranger danger.
Exactly.
Hi, I'm Dana Gould.
Hi, I'm Dana Gould. I can't see right now. I invite everybody in the tri-state area to come within 500 feet of the Comedy Club this weekend. Please welcome the lovely and talented comedian, actress, author, Emma. What's your last name again, dear?
Arnold.
Emma Arnold.
Thank you.
Yay,
thank you for having me.
Emma Arnold.
I know your name, Emma Arnold.
I regularly, when I'm in LA, get introduced as Emma Watson at shows.
Oh.
And then people are so disappointed. And I take the stage and I'm like, hey, sorry about this, guys.
I thought Hermione would be
sticks in people's head. Like, and I got like a show producer was really upset with me for not retweeting a poster. And I was like, well, you billed me as Emma Watson on it. So I didn't feel comfortable.
Is Arnold your maiden name?
No, it is my ex-husband's name.
Tom Arnold.
I kept it.
Yes.
Tom Arnold.
Her ex-husband, Arnold Ziffel from Green Acres.
Yeah, I kept it. I'm actually going to get...
could you tell your maiden name, or would you rather not?
Wilson, yeah.
Oh, Emma Wilson.
Yeah, I'm going to get married again, and then
because
just
your dad was the soccer ball from Castaway.
Yeah. And then Tom Arnold was a real, real change
Step
for me.
up.
Yeah. I feel like I'm just going to get married again and again and again and just keeping last names, and I'll just keep hyphenating. Just be Emma Arnold Gould, whatever.
Yeah.
No pressure.
If you can find a guy named Craig Bobema, you've got
Craig Bobema.
Bobema. So here's my question. Because you are members of the opposite sex, you're a young woman, you were single, you're now happily married to a lovely man. I was at your wedding. I was in your wedding. Emma,
yes.
You were single, you're married, divorced, currently in a very healthy relationship with a very nice guy. I am divorced, but off the market. Here's my question. With the advent of Tinder, does fucking not mean what it used to mean?
When you phrase it so beautifully like that.
Yeah.
When you phrase it, I don't know. I've never done Tinder.
This is my New York Post headline.
I don't know. I am a person who I missed Tinder. So
I've never been on Tinder.
I feel like I'm a 36-year-old mother of 6, and I feel like I'm the wrong person to ask about Tinder. I've never used it either.
I have never gone on any computer dating sites. I'm very lucky. I know enough about them to tell you, if you meet a guy through Tinder, he is not looking for a soulmate. He is looking for one thing, and it is very close to where you go to the bathroom.
Well, the women I know are doing the same thing. Like, I've sat with 3 women while they swipe. But
that's my point. I am of the belief that when I was of that age, in my late 20s, early 30s, women were not going out hell-bent for bone. They were not.
It wasn't socially acceptable to say you were, or to like. And what are we talking here in late 80s, 90s? 80s? Okay, yeah. So like, I don't feel like it was as socially acceptable to be like, I'm a young lady on the prowl.
Where my bone at? I'm going to give a bone.
I clearly don't understand women, as both of you know.
Well, we are human females. I will say, I do think, as a human female.
And that means you poop. Let's talk about that.
I've always been so afraid of diseases that, like, I just am amazed that anybody feels safe enough. Like, I've always been so convinced I was going to get so many diseases that I wish I could have just like slept around and not swipe, like, getting at it. Like, I've always been terrified of that.
Oh, I was very sexually active before I got married really young. I got married when I was 21.
Yeah.
But before
that is incredibly young.
It was quite young.
And that marriage didn't work.
No, I know. Weird. You meet somebody.
Listen, hang on. My jaw will hit the table now.
I was a kissing bandit. I made out with everybody. I made out with a lot of people, but don't give me your syphilis.
Now I would be too wary, like too careful.
Yeah.
But when the world was my Tinder when I was 20. I was just going for it.
As it should be.
Yeah.
And you grew up in
Idaho.
You're very attractive. And it was basically you got laid when you wanted to.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right.
I was 20 and, I had been sort of socially raised to have sex for a man's pleasure.
I see.
I don't think it occurred to me until I was older that like it was about me too. So I would have sex with a lot of people, but didn't find it very satisfying. I think that even might have been part of the reason I put up such good numbers was I was always looking for good sex and no men were good at sex.
Interesting.
And so like, it was kind of a numbers game. You'd find a guy who was good at sex and be like, okay. Perfect.
Yeah,
but like, so you'd have to go through so many schlubs to find somebody who knew what the clitoris was that like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And for guys who don't know what the clitoris is.
It's always an inch higher than you think.
Someone much smarter than I said, if you've ever seen Pam Severance perform, she said, it's like the golden idol in Raiders. And you have to get a bag of sand and sort of balance it.
Yes.
It takes about 20 minutes to get it down.
Yes.
Yeah. I think it wasn't really until I was older that I finally was like, oh, it's okay for me to have needs and wants. The young women I'm friends with knew that a lot faster than I did. Like the 20-year-olds who are out Tindering, like they know that.
Good for them. Good for them.
They're
I do think that has changed. I mean, I am not a typical like Tinder using dude, so clearly I'm looking at it from a completely different viewpoint. I just find it interesting when I was of that age, getting laid was a big deal.
Yes.
And I'll be honest, I toured as a comedian as a very young man before AIDS. And I got laid a lot more than a guy who looks like me should have been getting laid back then with my quote, social skills, unquote. It was still always a big deal. And now it seems to be something along the lines of, it's somewhere between getting froyo and dinner.
Yeah.
It's not quite as not quite as unimportant as froyo, but it's not as big a deal as dinner.
I remember seeing these two kids, two boys holding hands, and it was like one of the last shots in a thing where it was literally a tracking shot to show how many things had changed.
Yeah.
And I remember having that thought, and it hit me like a lightning bolt. It was like, oh my God, you can be openly gay now.
Yeah.
In high school, and I was just like, what an amazing thing, because that's the same thing. If you just said I'm gay, the ridicule would not cease.
Yes.
When I was in high school.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't cease. There were people who kept to themselves or never really dated a girl, really.
Right.
And you kind of had your suspicions, but it was just like this thing of don't ask, don't tell. Literally. It's a fun thing that I like to say. Like, I usually say it when something stupid happens, or just like, it's an amazing time to be alive. Like when maybe something goes wrong on the road, or like something insane happens, or Donald Trump's ascendancy. It's an amazing time to be alive. To see this.
Yeah, as they say in China, may you live in interesting times.
Yes, this. Yeah.
And
so, but it is, and my point is, it is an amazing time to be alive.
Yeah, and it's amazing to see things. Obviously because of social media and the digital information age, things metastasize and spread out quickly. Transgender awareness was non-existent 10 years ago.
Right.
People were transgendered, but the social movement in terms of awareness and acceptance and establishing their rights wasn't anything on the minds of people who had no knowledge of that world.
Right.
Whereas now here we are. And as always, the last line of defense from the terrified minority of people who don't want anything to change is the toilet.
Right.
As it was in the civil rights movement in the 50s, separate bathrooms.
Sure.
It always goes down to the toilet.
God,
and it's always supposedly to protect the children from predators.
The white children.
Right. From predators. That's why we don't want transgendered people using the bathroom.
Yeah.
No, I watch the news. All the predators are old white men.
Yes. The ones that have full use.
Yes, old, straight white men. Mm-hmm. That's who all the predators are.
And they're the ones putting up little cameras inside bathroom stalls to watch girls pee.
Yeah.
In bathrooms they can't get into.
Yeah, maybe let's just not let old white men into the bathroom.
Well, old white men that wear Dockers slacks, that do not wear dresses. You know what I mean? That are not transgender. That are not transitioning.
Yeah,
that don't feel like they have the true self inside of them as a woman.
Somebody who's aware of who they are and acceptance of that's the last person in the world you need to worry about. And also, just as a parent of kids.
Yeah.
My little kid doesn't go into the bathroom alone.
Right. Yeah. No, exactly. What age are we talking? Yeah. Yeah, I mean the only time
if I'm not there, I'll send them in with a stranger.
Right.
I said, find a stranger and go to the toilet.
And if it is a stranger, it's going to be a person who's physically a man wearing a dress. That is,
for God's sakes.
Well, and the only time, speaking of which, a physical man in a dress who has, who inside of her is a woman.
Yeah.
Like the only time that is a dangerous predator is in a terrible 80s action film or horror film. That's it.
Absolutely.
Because those were the villains. As soon as you saw a man putting lipstick on, you were like, oh no.
He's going to kill everybody.
I'm scared.
Also, I never realized this till you realize it. Something that is, in a beloved American institution, and you absolutely could not do it today. Klinger.
Oh, yeah.
And MASH.
Yeah.
Klinger wears a dress. He's trying to get out of the army by pretending he's a crazy person because only a crazy man would wear a dress. Only a lunatic would want to wear a dress.
I could kind of see it because Klinger never, quote unquote, minced around. Klinger was still fully just a butch man who was doing butch man things, but his outfits were together. Like his dress would go with his shoes. He had the right pearls. Yeah. Like his dress looked great. And it was this kind of thing where it's just like, oh, you're not fooling anyone. Where if he would have if he would have acted like more of a woman, he would have gotten to Section 8 back in those days. But he won't get it because he still can change a tire. Because he can still.
But that's only the 70s.
Someone would ask him if he thinks the Steelers will cover the spread, and he'd respond with actual information. Yeah, no, you're staying here the rest of your tour, man.
Exactly, yeah. You're not going anywhere.
What are you doing?
Just going off about the Toledo Mud Hens. And then at one point, MASH is one of those shows, if you watch the reruns, it's so dated.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Well, especially if you watch one of the ones that like Alan Alda directed.
Yeah, Leave It to Beaver is not as dated as MASH. It's more timeless than MASH.
There's a lot more with Leave It to Beaver. They still had those tenets of relatability.
Yeah.
Like Eddie Haskell. There was always an Eddie Haskell in everyone's life.
MASH was so dated so riveted to the 70s.
Yeah.
But at one point, Radar left and they just made Klinger Radar. So, hey, Jamie, you don't have to wear dresses anymore. Oh, great.
Okay, cool. Fine.
Good.
Sure.
But there's you're going to wear a character in a dress. Good. For how long? 11 years. Every day. Oh, God. If you don't want to wear pantyhose
and I wonder if it was of the time that Jamie Carr was just like, look, Radar's gone.
That might have been it.
I will give back half my salary per show.
These shoes.
They're killing me.
That is weird, though. You do have to think. Those women's shoes aren't comfortable.
No.
And they're not designed for the human body.
No. And they're only now being somewhat engineered to be better when there's a heel there.
Yeah, there was a woman.
But that heel is just.
There was a woman last week in England, I think, that got fired for not wearing high heels.
Good God.
And in a restaurant or something, and because her feet hurt, and she sued and won. But it was if guys wore those, oh God,
no, it's hell.
It throws your whole weight forward, and
it's just ridiculous.
Yeah, I'm glad. I think we're the first people to notice is women have had a hard time.
Well, and they have feelings, and they actually experience physical pain. That's new to me. I didn't know that.
All I know is they've got all the pussy. That's all I know.
So that means they run the world. You know what I mean? And we are just struggling, guys. I mean, come on.
Another weird rock and roll like anomaly was like Little Richard. Like, for Little Richard in the mid 50s,
yeah, to
be that flamboyant,
yep,
and it terrified white people.
God, yeah.
But also, but odd because African American culture is also very, very homophobic.
Well, and you'll see those show posters for Little Richard back then, which is like former homosexual Little Richard testifies. And
yes, when he was a preacher,
he'd do those shows, and it was just like, what a thing to read, much less put on a poster. And former homosexual, and it's like, because in that era where, you know, even now, if you're this person who is conflicted or whatnot, and you're like former homosexual, and you go to some Christian thing, they're never going to fully accept you.
No,
because you to them are quote unquote damaged goods.
Oh, sure.
You know what I mean? And it's just what a thing to have on your poster.
But yeah, it's like, isn't
like,
that?
I just imagine him in the church just being like, he's in the middle of his sermon about being saved, and him just going, "Oh, the things I've done," and he just trails off. And there's like 10 seconds of silence where he loses his train of thought.
But he did famously. Did he renounce that?
I think so. I think he just went, "Oh, that was all just silly or mistake."
I just remember him.
I don't think he ever owned it. Did he ever actually say, "I am a homosexual"? I don't think he ever did.
I don't know. I do know he told this story. I heard him tell this story on television. I threw all my jewelry in the river. I went to the bridge and I said, "Lord, take it. I don't need jewelry. I just need the Lord." And I took all my jewelry and my rings and my necklaces and my bracelets and I threw them in the river. And I said, "Lord, take me." And oh, I wish I knew where that river led out.
That's great. That's funny. Blanca Patch told me that him and Patton came out of, I think, Spider-Man 3 or something, the terrible one,
right?
And
well, wait a minute.
Well, yeah, exactly. It's a stretch, but if you got to pick one, that's
the bad terrible one,
the bad and terrible,
right?
And they came out of like ArcLight, and they were just bummed, like, and Little Richard just pulls up. And it couldn't have been, maybe it wasn't that. It was it might have been like Spawn or something.
Yeah.
Something that was like a good graphic
comic
novel.
book. It
and
was
then
a terrible movie.
Bull crap movie. And they were just, I only say that because I know neither one of them were known yet.
Right.
You know, Patton was not famous for being Patton yet. So just standing there and like, Little Richard alone pulls up in this big purple convertible and goes, "Yo!" and just drives away. And they're like, "Everything's better now. I've forgotten this horrible movie." He just went and sang a high keening note and peeled away by himself to two strangers.
That's exactly what you want.
I think he
you need that.
He spider sensed their depression.
Ooh.
And then just sang and then drove away.
And I know Doc Octopus is counting money in the old warehouse district, but I gotta see Blaine and Patton is in a sad movie. Whoa!
Yep.
Hello, Patton. You're gonna be on King of Queens, and Blaine, you're wonderful. Woo!
I think if I was single, I would rather meet somebody, know them. I'd rather have like a crush because of like a human interaction because I know a person, not just some random dude that I'm going to go get boned from my phone.
Once you've been in a long-term relationship too, you know that like the really creepy, gross, good sex comes after a certain point where you feel comfortable enough to be like, "Hey, will you put this in my butt?" You know, like it comes after a long. Sorry, Dana.
I know Dana and I are both like, we play the Tinkle Twins. We're from New England.
Yeah, we're from New England.
Well, you know how liberal Idaho is about sex values. So
wow.
Yes.
So you find it gets creepier.
You mean put. The only thing I want to put in my butt is hope.
So you just said it to two New England comedians who are both like,
you guys are so sweaty.
We both are like, I play Argon. I like watching HGTV. Will you put this bathroom upgrade in my butt?
I know. Barney Miller was on Perry Mason last night.
I play Argon. Dana's my twin.
Anyway, are you excited? Are you excited about the young Han Solo movie?
I like to go to Forever 21 and spend clothes.
Oh, I'm sorry that I brought up butt stuff.
No, it's okay.
No, and it is true. And I will say this. I did have.
I've never felt more from New England. Both you and I were like this.
I had a lower GI, which is when you have anal sex with a camera. They don't put you out.
Is this a medical thing? What are you talking about?
Oh, yeah. Is that
it's
different?
Whatever. It's something along those lines. There was a time in the early 90s when I had, this is the worst thing I've ever said on this podcast.
I can't wait.
For about a year and a half, I had a little thing called irritable bowel.
Oh, that's okay. Everybody has
as the great Kevin Rooney used to say, I had angry asshole. And they wanted to make sure that I didn't have an ulcer down there or something. So you have to shove a camera in your arse. And I'm not making this up. I was on the table. And it was happening, and I came like a motherfucker. No. I'm on to something.
Say my name. Dana Gould.
Put on Requiem for a Dream. That one scene. So the doctor says to me, okay, bit of a rough turn coming up.
Oh, my God, no.
And I say, and I'm not looking at him, I'm looking at the wall, and I go, honestly, I don't know how anyone could derive pleasure from this. This is awful.
Yeah.
And I never thought, what if the doctor was somebody that derived pleasure from this? Because this is what I heard. Well, it's a muscle and it can be dilated like any muscle.
Oh my God, no. Oh my God. He was super into butt sex.
And I was just like, if there was ever a time, if there was a God.
Oh my God.
If there was a God, there would have been a universal, clearly audible, whoop, 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 whoop.
Oh my God. That is incredible. Like, it's also like, clearly you're uncomfortable. I love that he couldn't just roll with it. You know what I mean? That he couldn't just do you a solid.
How about this? How about that I couldn't roll with it?
Yeah.
Because really it speaks so well of me. I can't envision this. How could it be possible if I can't envision it?
I know.
How could anyone do it?
But you felt vulnerable. I mean,
vulnerable.
like you were just saying it didn't feel good.
But of course it would feel good for people to get used to it because it's just the other side of the same stuff.
I know, but the guy could have been
just a big bundle of nerves.
It's just a different way of getting in the house.
I feel like anything I say right now, I'm going to make one of you faint. Like I feel like I could be like, yeah, right? Who likes butt stuff? Gross.
The Tickle Twins. We're kind of like twins and we're from New England.
We've both had human sex, but not with each other.
Yes, we've never had human sex with each other.
Yeah.
You can say whatever you want. Trust me, you can say whatever you want.
You're incredibly open and free with your life and your sexuality and your butt. Yeah. And that's what. And
I like handshakes.
Yeah. But I'm deep down as filthy as anyone, but I just can't. I can't even talk about it now.
I was raised.
I like physical pleasure.
I was raised by like really liberal hippies.
Yeah.
And so sex, like the joy of sex was like on our bookshelf and you were welcome to flip through it when I was a child.
Nice.
Yeah.
And so there wasn't a lot of like sexual hang up stuff. I mean, I still got a plenty from society and like, ended up weird anyway. But
being a woman that enjoyed sex right away, you're in deep trouble.
Yeah. So, I still had like weird hang-up-y stuff that I had to overcome and be like, it's okay for me to be a person right now. And
you compare that to Arden's parents who got married on a dare.
True story.
Wow.
And
weren't dating and still married.
Yeah. And my parents who never had the same bedroom in my memory.
I've never seen my parents hold hands.
Yeah.
Or shake hands or hug.
Yeah.
But
she's seen them fuck a lot of times, but all they do is high five.
Great YouPorn channel. Oh man.
I know enough about the guys. After sex, don't high five.
Don't high five?
Yeah,
no?
Don't high five.
Oh, okay. I was like, bro.
Yeah, bro.
Dude, I just had sex with you in the attic.
Oh my God. I have to say, growing up, I was like always stripping when I was like 5 or 6. They couldn't stop me. I wanted to be like Mae West. We only had like 3 channels. One of them played Dialing for Dollars. Did you have that in Massachusetts? It was like old movies, and I wanted to be like an old time.
You really wanted to fuck Douglas Fairbanks?
I desperately, if I couldn't fuck Douglas Fairbanks, my life was over. And I remember they had to they couldn't stop me from stripping for everybody. And the only way they could finally put an end to it was they were like, you don't see your grandmother doing that all the time. It was like they had to shame me into keeping my clothes on, because I was like, I just wanted to make out with all my little girlfriends and strip for everybody. It was like, no, go back to your New England shame hole where you belong.
Yeah, I did grow up. If a boy fell down the New England shame hole, he landed on me.
There's a boy in this well.
There's a boy in the shame hole.
There's a boy in this well.
Thanks, Lassie.
You were an altar boy.
Yeah.
But they never got you.
Nope.
Not interested.
Always the bridesmaid, never the bride.
I wrote erotica for a number of years.
Wow.
And I feel like that sort of, if before I was a little more quiet about it.
I write neurotica, so it works out well.
Because the filter you got when I first started, I was like, they were touching genitals.
Let's set the scene. Let's set the scene a little bit on that, because it is fascinating. You are living in Idaho. You're married. You have 3 kids.
Yeah.
And have you started to do stand-up yet?
No, I hadn't started stand-up.
You're a spunky housewife.
I was a spunky housewife.
You've got a squirrel in your pants and its tail's a-flipping.
And we split. We got separated. And I guess right around then I had done a few open mics, but I hadn't really branched out. But I had been a writer for a long time, and
you've written several books.
I'd written several terrible, very bad books, and my publisher knew that I was splitting, and that I had been like, I'm desperate for money. I don't know what to do. I'm gonna have to support myself and 3 little kids. And he was like, look, you should start writing erotica. People, a lot of his other people, were making tons of money doing it. So I did. So I just started writing.
That's awesome.
Just churning it out like crazy.
That's awesome.
And I had several pen names and would just throw as much at him as I could.
Where were you? Did you write it in your house, or did you go coffee shop?
No,
Starbucks erotica.
I had a basement office, this very dark, spidery room, where I would sit, and I always
shame hole.
The shame hole.
Yeah, welcome to New England.
The shame well. Yeah.
Well, put your clothes back on.
Is that what your shame coat was?
And I love it because people would sort of assume that because I would interact with fans and stuff. I had a whole marketing thing that I did as my pen name, and people would picture that you're in your lingerie, writing, on a divan or something.
Right.
And it was
on your fainting couch.
I'm sweaty and in my jammies writing penis and, as many different ways as I can. And so there's nothing sexy about writing it. And I hated writing it. It was so.
Did you ever use the term salami Torino?
And then I looked at her, and her massive sweater puppies started barking at me.
Somebody used the phrase salami wallet, and I almost drove off the road. It was so brilliant.
I had 2 pieces of paper, one for of synonyms, one for penis and one for vagina, that I had taped on the wall.
Oh, good for you.
So that when I would run out of words, I could look over and be like,
a friend of mine,
clam pocket. No, I never.
My engorged
pocket.
Slim Jim.
My enraged tater tot stabbed forth like the armies of Wellington.
I remember the story of and this might have been an urban legend, but when the Jackass guys were starting out, Brad Pitt was a huge fan, their antics, and so they did this thing where they're like, "Would you do one of our things? Would you do a prank?" And they had him stand in line at Pink's Hot Dogs. And everyone's like, "Oh my God, Brad Pitt! Good Lord!" This is 2001. We know where it's just white hot.
Yeah.
You cannot walk the streets.
Right.
And they're like, "I can't believe it." And everyone's having breakdowns in the line and signing autographs. And they pull up in a van and get in the car and help. And they throw him in the van and drive away. And that was the whole prank. And everyone, all it was filming the Pink's line, and people, they can't get their phones out fast enough. He's been kidnapped. I swear to God.
Well, I was in San Francisco.
His people shut it down. His people were like, "Don't air that," and they took it away.
Oh, really?
That's the legend. But
no, it could be true.
I hope it's true.
Johnny Knoxville lives. You could throw a softball into his yard.
Yeah.
Excellent guy, by the way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he is. I met him.
Great guy.
Really good guy. I was doing the road, and Ricky Lindholm was in a movie with him and some other people, and they they had that kid in the movie that did the Bad Grandpa movie.
Right.
And so I saw the metamorphosis of Bad Grandpa with this, where I was doing stand-up at the Cleveland Improv, and a bunch of them came to see me, and they're like, hey, come to the after party. And I went to this backyard party for the movie. And so this kid's walking around, and Knoxville meets me, and he's like, hey, cover your balls. And I was like, why? He's like, this kid loves punching people in the nuts. And I was like, okay. And then everyone around me, all these different men were like, that kid I hate him. I hate him so much. And you see that kid, he's like a little man. He's like a little stocky man. He looks like a bouncer for a little person's like club. And he's just wheeling back from the shoulder, just trying to punch people in the balls. And he didn't get me, but like everyone hated him. And then Knoxville's like, I just love him. I love that kid, man. So it's like you see where his sense of humor just leads. And he put that kid in a movie.
Yeah, he did.
For punching strangers' balls.
No, it's there are certain things, they're just always funny.
Yeah.
You can't, that's one thing that doesn't change.
Yes. Sadly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like we were before the podcast telling some really funny stories about people we know who have shit in their pants.
Yeah.
It's funny every time.
It's always funny because the world grinds to a halt and it is immediate horrific crisis.
And I will repeat for the benefit of the audience.
Yes, please do.
The story that I told. A friend of mine had food poisoning and was just recovering from food poisoning and was in an elevator in a big office building.
Yeah.
And was riding in the elevator with just a regular, like a big executive in this building. And he goes, I didn't feel good. I just got over food poisoning and I sneezed and shit my pants.
Trigger reaction.
And he goes, and it sounded like this. Achoo! Oh. Well, that's the interesting thing. In one of the first things that happens when you die.
Yes. You void yourself.
Yeah. Now, I'm not going to go to the crucifixion. Let's not go there with this.
No.
But the end of every romantic movie.
Yes.
Love means
goodbye.
Never having to say you're sorry. I love you, sir. It actually makes the sound that it would have in the comic book, comic book panel, in the comic book version of Dying Young.
Well, look, my thing is when you have a sudden something violent and horrible happens to you that your body will not recover, like say a gunshot wound or something in the Old West.
Right.
Your body. What if it happened as you're dying? So you're kind of like you're being cradled, like Gary Cooper in High Noon, and like kind of just like Daisy, I fought my hardest. Oh, I'm sorry. No, just finish your thought. Oh, it's okay. And the woman having to be like, no, it's cool. I don't mind. Just
you died a hero's death.
It doesn't ruin this moment. Oh, what did you eat?
We don't have Brussels sprouts on the ranch.
The rotten to the core villain that they finally kill. He sent henchmen after them the whole movie. The guy in Pale Rider. Pale Rider Clint kills him. Yeah, you've always been a son of a bastard. Oh. Just cursing fate. It goes from cursing him from Hell's Heart I stab at thee to Hell's Heart I'm so embarrassed.
And it would work in fiction.
Yeah.
Luke, help me take this mask off so I can look at you with my own. Oh.
Luke, stand back about 4 feet while I finish what I'm about to say.
There are certain things about
you don't
the dark
understand.
Side.
I have to.
The way the dark side will corrupt your
I'm
body.
part machine. So many of the things I give up are so much more toxic than a normal human body.
I sense the good in you.
trying to hide.
By the way, we're two grown men.
Come on, this is gold. I don't care how old you are. Someone shitting themselves and trying to be sincere, and the other person trying to keep a brave face and trying not to turn away. No, I'm with you. Whatever you General, you fought so hard against those wild Indians. Custer, you fought so. Though we may lose the Alamo, oh God.
The end of this would have happened at the very end of Saving Private Ryan,
full of arrows, and just wildly shitting himself while he's trying to say something inspiring.
That's the movie Buckskin Full of Fudge.
Well, the original,
the end of Saving Private Ryan. Earn this. Earn what?
Oh, you making a joke? You mean earn your poop? What a weird guy you are. Walks away not understanding what he meant
40 years later, he said, earn this, and then he shit his pants.
I still think he's an asshole. Why are we at this grave?
How do I have to earn his shit? No. Guys, if the hero of your movie doesn't get the point of your movie, that was the best ending to the original Planet of the Apes would have been, oh my God, they had a Statue of Liberty just like ours. No, you idiot.
You frauds. We did it first and best.
I have a friend who's a comic book artist, and he made a ton of dough doing those dirty comics in the alternative comic heyday. Mm-hmm. And his wife would say, like, we got to go over to my mother's in an hour. And he'd be like, okay. And he'd be at his board just drawing a giant cock.
Yeah.
Just like, yep. No, I know. And we got to go by the pet cemetery and pick up some plums. You know, and it's just
that's kind of how I felt like I'd be like, I have to go pick up my kids in 15 minutes, but I think I can finish this lesbian bondage coffee table scene real quick. You know, so
there's lots of people out there Googling that right now. I can tell you right now, there's a lot of frantic Googling.
I'm going to Google lesbian bondage and Yahoo myself.
I've occasionally have people who like, because I do comedy now, they'll try to like, people who don't like my comedy or don't like me or whatever, will try to like come out and like be like, I'm going to out you. I found some of your porn and I'm going to out you. And like this one was super dirty and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like,
here I am on a podcast talking about it, idiot.
Yeah. So like when they've done that, I've just like retweeted the link and been like, here, I don't actually give a shit. Like it's harder to find, but like people have like dug far enough that they've found stuff. And I'm like, one guy was
It is very, very hard to find erotica on the internet.
Oh my God. I've tried for years. I've tried for
little porn. That's my biggest problem with the internet. So little porn.
So if you just type the word porn into Google, your computer will just grow like the blob.
Yes.
It's taken over the house.
Titty Hamburglar. That's my pen name.
Titty Hamburglar.
That's pretty good.
Thank you.
That's very good.
Thank you so much.
Mine's disappointment supervisor.
But you ready to be disappointed?
But you raise an interesting point. I know that, you know, because you're both very attractive. You're both young women and you tour on the road and you have to deal with an ocean of unenlightened men on a daily basis. And I do think it's interesting you say, like, I'm going to out you. Like somebody found out that you did something else of a sexual nature. Yeah. And immediately you had to be shamed for that.
Yeah. My response to that is always like, I'm just the producer of this. I did this for money and thousands and thousands of people bought it. It doesn't say anything about me. It says something about y'all. This was my, like the one he found, I'm like, this is my most popular book.
Yeah.
This isn't a reflection on my sexuality. But even if it was, fuck you.
Yeah, you're outing me for what? Is it straight? The actor John Michael Higgins, who's played David Letterman in The Late Shift. He's in the Pitch Perfect movies. Mm-hmm. He's in all of the Christopher Guest movies. He and I were very good friends in college.
That's weird.
I've known John forever.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I love him. I worked with him once. I loved him.
Yeah. So I went to UMass and he went to Amherst College, but we had met in a local open mic. He performed and we have been friends ever since.
He did stand-up?
He'd performance-y kind of things. He was alone on stage in a comedy club, but it wasn't traditional stand-up. But he had really creative, funny bits. He's just a brilliant person.
Yeah, he's great.
He's a wonderful guy. And for whatever it's worth, I did not know his sexual orientation.
Right.
And we were walking across the quad at Amherst College one day. And a jock guy and he was very big theater department guy at Amherst College. And this jock idiot walked past him and went, fag, again, because this is 1982.
Right.
And John went, so? And the guy didn't, he fell apart like a Jenga tower. Like he didn't know what to say. And it was one of the coolest things I'd ever seen in my life. They're like, here's your worst thing. No, what? No, I know that.
Yeah.
What else you got?
Like whore. I've gotten like whore, and I'm like, so?
Yeah, so?
So?
And? So I had always assumed John was gay.
Yeah, he's married. He's married to a lady.
Yeah, he stayed in my apartment at one point in the 90s I think he was doing reshoots on something, and I was on the road, and I just stay in my apartment. And so I'm cleaning out my apartment, and I find in the bathroom a bag of Lady Bix, those pink disposable razors.
My God.
They were clearly his girlfriend's razors.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was thinking, like, why does a gay guy need... Do you need a pink razor?
Oh my God.
Can't you just use a regular razor, John?
That's just like what a Superman he is too, that he was straight and he said, so, like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, that was even cooler.
Yeah,
like, I don't care what you think. Barry Crimmins said a great thing once. God, Barry Crimmins said this, or Bobcat Goldthwait said this, and forgive me for not knowing who said it, but they said fag. And he just said, I'm whatever you fear most.
Yes.
That was great. That was beautiful.
I keep playing Texas for some reason. Like I just did Fort Worth last weekend.
Well, you are a big part of your act for people that have never seen you live is a strong advocation for a violent overthrow of the government. So I understand.
It really is. You know what? That's about 35 minutes of it. But like what's interesting.
You will not sleep until there is an ISIS flag flying over the White House.
It really is going to be fun. That is my dream. ISIS 2020. But I do feel like it's interesting. I have to say generally, like, and sometimes I just did Alaska recently. So these are like real guys, you know, that are coming and I'm thinking, what are they thinking? And generally I've had very few people be creepy to me after shows. Like sometimes people try to be funny. Like one person bought one of my shirts and was like, this is my new cum rag. We sign it. You know what I mean? Like, but like for the most part, yeah.
Did you say, how are you going to break that to your mom?
It was either that and then another guy last week was another guy. There was another guy last week who said,
where do people come from?
Another guy told me that he loves to eat pussy. Stuff like that. Yeah. And then I was like, but it's like one of those things that you're just looking at it and I'm just thinking, and it's one of those things where I do go a little bit like I start to like float above my body. Generally, people are very nice. Oftentimes, people are just trying
because you
to
go,
be funny.
Of course, because with my thighs over your ears, you don't have to listen. That's your problem. You don't want to listen. Look at the lengths that you will go.
I quickly think, all right.
And he thinks, really? Will you come back to my hotel?
I just don't.
I would love to have a total stranger gnawing away on me like a dog with a chew toy.
That's the other thing too. As like a lady touring, it's like no matter what. Even if I was single, like it's never like guys touring.
Banging on my nugget like a gypsy with a tambourine. There, I said it.
They get to like get laid across the country by girls. Like a lot of guys, as you're like, you know, a lot of guys maybe when they're younger and starting out, they haven't maybe gotten at it with a lot of ladies. And then when you're a stand-up, I think a lot of women will sleep with you. But like for a female comedian, it's like, what are we going to go like have some guy go down on us in like bedazzled jeans, like and like you know, and like after like the Chuckle Hut in like Oklahoma City.
They come from miles to enjoy our intermission.
This is Groucho Marx. A few days ago, I was talking with the Director of Civil Defense, and he told me some things that I feel everyone should know. Did you know, for example, that your chances of surviving an atom bomb attack are excellent? It's true. Keep a complete first aid kit handy. Keep a closed container of drinking water in your refrigerator, enough for 3 days. Take a look around your house right now and pick out the safest spot, away from windows and doors. Make sure that every member of your family understands he is to rush to that safe spot when there's danger. I'm convinced that these precautions are necessary right now. They're important to your family, yourself, and your community.
Hot dog.
Hot dog? Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. The hot dogs at our concession stand do rate an appreciative whistle.
It is one of the coolest, creepiest movies ever made. It's Night of the Living Dead before Night of the Living Dead. It's a David Lynch movie before there were David Lynch movies. 1962's low-budget gem, Carnival of Souls. And it owes its existence to the intersection of two very strange things: the Russian satellite Sputnik and the Mormon Church's need to party. On October 4th, 1957, Americans learned that the Soviet Union had successfully launched the first man-made satellite into space. It was dubbed Sputnik, and it prompted a national panic, not simply over the looming Cold War, but over the fear that came with the realization that the Soviet Union had beaten the United States. They beat us into space. And this led, naturally, to panic and hysteria. And the finger of blame was pointed directly at the American educational system, which had failed to produce a group of scientists that could beat the Ruskies into space. This resulted in the National Defense Education Act, signed into law by President Eisenhower in 1958. Spurred by the fear that the Soviet Union had eclipsed American scientists, the NDEA poured $1 billion into American schools, specifically with an eye towards a new, reinvigorated approach to teaching American school children science. Now, one of the ways in which the brave new world of science was introduced to American students was the then novel educational film. Now, educational films predate the Sputnik launch, making their first appearance in the late 1940s, but it was the National Defense Education Act that put the companies who made these films into big, permanent business. Anybody who attended a public school prior to the 2000s has seen an educational film, whether it was explaining how volcanoes were formed or showing you how different animals survive in the winter. Prior to this, these films had far more ambitious goals, drifting as they did into the realm of social engineering. You would go to school, sit in a classroom, and a film would be shown that would tell you how to think and how to behave. Such films as How to Date, The Angry Boy, or How to Control Your Emotions. And naturally, Molly Grows Up.
Hi, what kind of a day did you have today?
Mom, guess what?
I don't know. What?
Mom, I started my first period.
Well, what do you know? Come on, sit down. Tell me about it.
A full discussion of these films is certainly warranted and will be dealt with at a later date, as well as how Molly turned out. But for now, we have bigger fish to fry. Educational films, by and large, were made by four major companies: the Learning Corporation of America, Encyclopedia Britannica Films, and a company called Coronet Films. Last and least was a scrappy little company called Centron Films. Founded in Lawrence, Kansas, Centron stood for Central, meaning Lawrence, Kansas, the middle of the country, and electronic, as in the electronic age of the future. Centron made movies like Halloween Safety and the What Happens If You Get VD classic, The Innocent Party.
It isn't the end of the world for you. We can cure syphilis, especially if we find it in the early stages, such as yours.
I don't know how I got it. I haven't done anything.
Don, let's be straightforward about this. I'm not here to make a moral judgment, but you and I know that it was contracted through sexual intercourse with an infected person.
The Innocent Party was directed by Centron's in-house auteur, Herc Harvey. Now, at some point, late in 1960, Herc Harvey was driving back to Lawrence, Kansas after directing a Centron movie in California. As he drove through Salt Lake City in Utah, he saw what was left of the Saltaire Pavilion. The Saltaire Pavilion, which resembles a brooding Moorish castle, was built by the Mormon Church on the shores of the Great Salt Lake in 1893. It was intended as a family destination, a safe, wholesome atmosphere under the open supervision of Mormon church leaders. You see, other resorts in the area were viewed by the church as being spiritually bleak. But a young courting Mormon couple could visit Saltaire and have a big, heaping helping of hardcore wholesomeness right out in the open. Saltaire was a place where God's children could frolic, within the boundaries of God's law, which makes one wonder why God let it burn to the ground in 1925. But so it goes. Saltaire was rebuilt and, in 1931, almost burned to the ground again. But it was repaired. But then the Great Salt Lake receded, and it was left standing on 2,000 pilings over a bunch of stinky wet sand and rotting fish. Fun fact, the Pixies song Palace of the Brine is about Saltaire. But it was this abandoned, decaying, spooky yet creepy structure that Herc Harvey drove past at dusk on his lonely drive back home to Lawrence from Los Angeles. And he thought to himself, gee, that'd be a great place to make a horror movie. So he went home and spoke to John Clifford, who wrote many of Centron's movies, and said, hey, I want you to write a horror movie. And all I care about is that it ends with a bunch of dead people coming out of the Great Salt Lake, and they got to dance around this big abandoned pavilion. And John Clifford said, okay, and went to work. What would emerge from this collaboration would come to be considered a cult classic, but not right away. Carnival of Souls was shot over 3 short weeks for a budget of only $33,000, paltry by even 1961 standards. It begins like a Centron-made red asphalt automobile safety film. Young Mary Henry, played by Candice Hilligoss, is driving with her friends when they succumb to temptation and take part in an ill-advised street race. In short order, their car plummets off a nearby bridge into a river, and when it is finally fished out, all of the occupants are dead. All except for Mary. Mary tries to go on with her life. Or does she? She moves to Utah, where she's been hired as a church organist. Though, and this is rare for 1962, Mary casually professes to be not very religious.
Well, Mary, you'll make a fine organist for that church. Be very satisfying to you, I think.
It's just a job to me.
Well, it's not quite the attitude for going into church work.
I'm not taking the vows. I'm only going to play the organ.
Once Mary hits the road for Utah, the existential shit hits the fan. She finds herself being followed by a strange, pale, cadaverous-looking man, known only in the credits as The Man, and played by director Herc Harvey. The film reveals one of its biggest influences here, The Hitchhiker, by Lucille Fletcher, who also wrote Sorry, Wrong Number. The Hitchhiker was done as an episode of the radio series Suspense, starring Orson Welles, and was later adapted by Rod Serling for The Twilight Zone. Mary makes it to Utah where, like Herc Harvey, she finds herself inexplicably drawn to the Saltaire Pavilion. Unlike Herc Harvey, she suffers strange lapses of, well, reality. It suddenly seems that she's invisible to those people around her. In one quietly terrifying scene, she's in a department store trying on dresses, and she can't hear anybody speak. And they can't hear her, nor see her. No one except for the cadaverous, mysterious man. After this episode, Mary becomes obsessed with the question of whether or not she is actually still alive. This is an existential crisis of massive proportions, and as you would imagine, would have a deleterious effect on one's career as a church organist.
Profane, sacrilege, what are you playing in this church? Have you no respect? Do you feel no reverence? And I feel sorry for you and your lack of soul.
Things go from bad to worse for poor Mary until she finds herself wandering the Saltaire Pavilion, all by herself. Or is she? You have to see it. Carnival of Souls didn't make much of a splash when it was first released. It played mostly in drive-ins on a double bill with a film called The Devil's Messenger. But it never went away, popping up on TV consistently, and around 1989, as Twin Peaks and David Lynch fever hit in a big way, Carnival of Souls made a comeback, being as it was a David Lynch film made before David Lynch started making films. I think he cited it in an interview, and things went from there. Carnival of Souls is a great little movie, made on a shoestring and not enough time. It nonetheless looks amazing because Herc Harvey and the Centron crew knew what they were doing. Story-wise, it's a neat little cousin to The Hitchhiker, or An Occurrence at Owl Creek Bridge. I heartily recommend it. Now, should you choose not to watch it,
I feel sorry for you and your lack of soul.
Now, say you want to see Carnival of Souls, and well, you should. You are in luck. The Criterion Collection has just reissued a big, beautiful restored Blu-ray edition. And how do you acquire it? You clicky-clack your keyboard to danagould.com. Click on the Amazon banner and shop away. You get what you want, and for no extra charge, we get a couple extra beans to keep the lights on around here. Also on the homepage of danagould.com, you'll see options to donate to the show or subscribe through PayPal. Every cent goes back into the show. Please know, we appreciate anything you can do. But that's not all. You could also visit our store at comedyfilmnerds.com for Bevilacqua Heating and Air Conditioning t-shirts, Dana Gould Hour t-shirts, signed vinyl copies of Funhouse and Let Me Put My Thoughts in You, and, so you know, the vinyl release of I Know It's Wrong is finally up and on its way. Additionally, we have signed CDs, DVDs, Dana Gould Hour posters, t-shirts, drink cozies, life preservers, propellers, snowmen, all signed by me. Just in time for your Labor Day gift giving. All available at store.comedyfilmnerds.com. Boy, after pimping out all that bullshit, I'm tired. I feel like I should maybe go lay down. Casper is an online retailer of premium mattresses for a fraction of the average price. Casper is revolutionizing the mattress industry by cutting the cost of dealing with resellers and showrooms and passing that savings directly to the consumer. Casper is an obsessively engineered mattress at a shockingly fair price. Mattresses can often cost you well over $1,500, but Casper mattresses cost just $500 for a twin-size mattress and $950 for a king-size. It combines springy latex and supportive memory foam to create an award-winning sleep surface with just the right sink and just the right bounce. And all Casper mattresses are made here in America. Time magazine named it one of the best inventions of 2015. An award-winning mattress that won't disappoint. Try Casper for 100 nights risk-free in your own home. If you don't love it, they'll pick it up and refund you everything. Free shipping and returns in the U.S. and Canada. Additionally, why not get $50 towards any mattress purchase by visiting casper.com/Dana and using the promo code Dana.
Make sure you get yours and enjoy it now.
More to come from the Dana Gould Hour.
I remember when I was a kid, it had to have been, I think it was 1975, because The Hustle was on the radio all day, every day. And I was 11. And my friends and I, on Vinnie Livingston's porch, got on the word wren, the bird.
Yeah.
And apparently for about a month, a wren was synonym for a joint.
Okay.
We were 11. We'd never smoked. I mean, we knew what it was, but we just thought that was the funny, and like 6 hours. Like I remember laughing from the early afternoon into the night.
Yeah.
Just on his porch, just dying.
Yeah.
Oh God.
One of my favorite memories was being on the road with a couple of comics, Kyle Kinane, you know.
Sure, of course.
And then there was a guy, Steve O'Harvey, who actually passed away a couple months ago, sadly. But and then another guy, he sounds like Steve Harvey, the big name, but his name was Steve O'Harvey.
Oh no, I thought you meant Steve O. I was like,
no.
There's Steve Harvey.
Steve Harvey.
There's Steve O.
No.
And there's Steve O'Harvey.
No. Yeah, no. All these, they all run together. And then another guy named Darren Bodecker, and there was like two of us on two to a bed. These like two queen beds. We had like no money, so we were all staying in one room,
right.
And we were going. We were just doing this sketch for this patent lawyer company or something. Anyway, it was one of those things like,
been there.
Dave, if you guys put a show together, I work as a patent lawyer and I also do open mics. So I'm like, okay, but we put this weird show together. But I remember it's that thing of when you're just drifting off to sleep and someone says something and you can't stop laughing. You can't stop laughing. And it was, and Steve-O was like a bigger guy, and I remember, and Darren was very skinny in the same bed with him, and he just, oh, your ass is literally eating the sheets. And then just, you can't stop. And then he just rides the wave to the point where we're just sobbing with laughter. And I finally go, just shut up, stop, shut up, shut up. And I had to be like, I was the mom. We got to do a show tomorrow during the day. Shut up, you know.
I was in Vegas sharing a room with a really good friend of mine. Same thing. And we're in bed, and I hear from across the room, he farts. And he just says in this weird little voice, my sheets are squeaking. This is in my 30s. I just couldn't stop laughing.
Yeah. It's just something that dumb or, you know, the littlest thing. Like when you said like we're both grown men, I was like, yeah, but I don't want to know the grown man that's like, all right.
It's funny, yeah.
Okay.
I was just talking to somebody. You know, you think that you're a normal guy.
Mm-hmm.
But I was talking to somebody recently who was just like, he's like, yeah, he's not funny. He doesn't have a big sense of humor at all. I was like, how are those people real?
Yeah.
And like, I would rather saw my own head off than have to spend 5 minutes with somebody who had no sense of humor. You don't have to be funny, but you better laugh all the time.
Yeah. What's the point of life?
Yeah,
like, I have to tell you this. I just remember this today. You were doing a show. I think it might have been the Tinkle Twins.
Uh-huh.
And you were doing
Arden Myrin
as well. But you were doing just a set by yourself.
Uh-huh.
And I'm backstage with this comedian, this kid. He's like real young. He has a lot of bits about being a millennial and stuff. I've never a millennial.
Uh-huh.
And the point of the story is he's very young.
Right.
And he was like, hey man, and you know, he introduced himself, and he's like, he knows my stuff, and you're very funny, thanks very much. But he kind of was like, just kind of pacing around backstage, like kind of like, hey. And I think what happened was he just dropped in and thought he could do a set, and you guys were like, well, we're full up or something.
Uh-huh.
But you were up and you were killing, and he said to me, he's like, oh man, Dana Gould, so funny. I'm like, yeah, he's great. And he's like, I mean, the guy said this, I don't laugh at anything, and this guy's great. I'm like, the fuck are you, a 70-year-old asshole producer?
What is wrong with you?
I don't laugh at anything? You're 24. No.
You're
and
wrong.
I think I'd chalk it up to just insecurity, him saying that.
Yeah,
and I was just like, no, man, you're in the wrong business. If you're a comedian, you know, the worst guy is the comedian that hears a brilliant joke and people are laughing and goes, ha, funny.
Or worse,
that's the worst guy.
I was telling somebody this.
It's just like, oh, okay.
Christ, like 2 days ago.
Chalk one up for you.
Well, I went through this period where like when you're in comedy, it goes every night. And you don't laugh at that.
Sure.
Well, there's tons of stuff that you laugh at.
Right.
In my case, but like stand up and you do the appreciation noise.
Yeah.
Somebody comes up with a funny joke. Ah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Because there's no laughter left in your soul.
Sure. Yeah.
Nah. Larry Brown from San Francisco, I would always like, he'd tell a joke and I was like,
Bubbles.
Yeah, Bubbles Brown. Yeah, you just hear him in the back.
Yeah. Well, but I don't see this kid doing 4 shows a night.
No, plus
to the point where his soul is crushed.
24.
Yeah, you got to have some more, you know, healthful energy in your heart.
Oh my God. And it's so funny. And it's those little things. I was talking to somebody today about the Beatles movie Help.
Okay.
Which is not as good a movie as A Hard Day's Night.
Okay. Yeah.
A Hard Day's Night is considered like a great movie. Like,
sure.
There's like the Criterion collection remastered it and did everything. Help is not in that area. I actually like Help better.
Okay.
I know it's not as good a movie.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, I like Help better. And one, it's helped by the fact, no pun intended, when you watch it realizing they're so wasted. It was the movie like...
Oh, they're just real stoned,
it was 4 months after they discovered pot.
Yeah.
And they were just stoned the entire movie.
Yeah.
And there's one thing in particular where it's the Ticket to Ride sequence where they're singing the song Ticket to Ride. And it's basically a rock video.
Sure.
But before one had ever been done. And they're in they're skiing, and then at the end of the song, they fall off a gondola, they're rolling down in the snow, and you just hear, just before they cut, they go, oh, cold, 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 cold. And then you just hear John Lennon say very quietly, cold snow. In my room, I remember watching it in Boston with my roommate Dan Spencer, and we just kept rewinding it and playing it. Just cold snow.
Cold snow. When I moved,
Lennon was hilarious.
Oh yeah.
This is going to blow everyone's mind. So
God.
if you're driving, pull over. If you're at home, sit down.
Yeah. Is this a truth bomb?
There's a truth bomb. 4, 3. There's a fundamental disconnect between the way men and women approach sexuality. I feel good. It is nowhere more typified than by the dick pic. No one wants to see a picture of your cock.
That's not true. I don't want to see a poorly lit picture of your dick with your laundry in the background. I love a cock pic. I request cock pics all the time.
No!
I love cock pics.
You
all the time. Okay.
Jesus,
not
Emma. No.
Not unsolicited. I get plenty of like random crazy cock pics from, not anymore because people know that I just post them now, but I used to get a ton of them.
I knew you.
No, I love a cock pic. I think I love penises.
You don't need to send it to me. I don't need it.
not from just anyone, but like, I'll ask my boyfriend to send one along now and again and just be like, yeah, I need to see the old soldier. Keep it.
Once again, the twins go back into their New England hole.
My biggest problem.
I'm literally growing a tortoise shell.
Both of us, our jaws are set.
No, I don't understand that. Like, my biggest problem with cock pics had always been, I feel like guys aren't good at taking pictures, so they would take like a too far up angle with like mostly belly and then a little bit of the cock, like the top of it. And I'd be like, no, put some time and thought into the cock pic.
Yeah.
Then I want to see it.
I don't want it to look like a picture of your feet that your cock photo bombed.
I don't think that's fair for men.
I don't want your portobello mushroom staring at me. Yeah.
No, penises are beautiful. They're such pretty little happy soldiers.
But guys,
I don't think that's fair for men.
Send along a picture of your minge.
I don't feel like
I want it to look like a bear cub that's been hit by a garbage truck.
Show me how you are so influenced by where you grew up. Truly are response to both of these things. Just even hearing cock pic, I'm like,
close the fetal.
I feel like it's not a fair thing for men that like you don't get to be sexy. Like that, like as a woman, you get to send pictures and be like alluring and seductive. But for men, it's like, you don't get to be sexy like that. And I've always pushed against that. And that's why when people are like, oh, Speedos, I'm like, fuck yeah, bring on the Speedos. I want to see all that. I feel like men should get to be sexy too.
You're the second woman I know who has that attitude. And I don't say this like
who's the other one?
April Richardson. I was like, no, if it's the right guy, if I'm dating a guy and we're apart, send it on.
Also, every
Did you
guy
have a nice dad?
No, God, no. No. I probably have Dana's laughing because he knows. No, I had the worst dad.
I might have a worse dad.
No, you don't.
I don't know. I'm a pretty
you
bad
want to have
dad.
a dad off? We could have a dad off.
I'm a pretty dad off.
You don't.
Okay. We'll have a dad off privately afterwards.
It's bad.
I'm a pretty bad dad.
I have a really good stepdad who came into my life later and was really kind to me. So maybe that helped.
At this point, Emma and Arden had a bad dad off. Let's see who won. We're back.
We did have a bad dad off, and you do. You know what? I didn't think there was a worse dad than my dad. But it goes. I remember when I was on
Emma wears the belt.
I remember
it's like the end of Creed.
When I was on Mad TV, I remember looking around. Every girl that was on when I was there, it was like everybody had something with their father. Like generally you don't go into comedy as a gal, something with the dad. There's either he's missing or like whatever. Different
or died.
Different versions of bad dad.
Our friend Rita used to be a wardrobe person on porn sets. Like she did porn wardrobe.
That's cool.
Which is oddly an ironic job, but many of those scenes start dressed.
Yes.
And they had a dressing room game, which was dad or uncle.
Yeah. My ex's family owns legal brothels in Nevada. And
I feel good.
But all the girls would do the same thing, dad or uncle, like they all had been molested.
And so why do they go into that? Is it because they are trying to assert power over their sexuality? Or like, why do people who were sexually abused go into sex work?
I don't want to bash any sex workers here or make like have people think that I'm like,
which is not to say that everyone who is in sex work comes from a place of damage.
Or needs it, because
but many people that are damaged do find their way there. So let's be very clear about that.
The women that I knew often had pretty severe addiction problems and didn't have educations. Not always. There were women
don't like homework.
I would say the American women were by and large really very emotionally broken and had gotten into it as a way to handle it. Alternately, the women who would come from South America, it was business. Yeah. They would come up, they'd make $40,000, they'd go home for 4 months, and it was just all business.
Good for them.
Wow.
And so it was weird to see the difference in the way sexuality was treated for them. Like
they're not from New England.
They didn't feel bad about it.
No, they're not from New England.
They're not from New England.
They are not flinty. They could not pull Katharine Hepburn out of a police lineup.
There's not going to be a nice. I'm going to open a brothel where you get a firm handshake and you get to go clear brush in the backyard.
Exactly. None of those
never talk about it again.
None of those girls rode their bike past a cranberry bog. I can tell you that.
Yeah, you never talk about it again. You just go. When I saw the movie The Queen, that was about when after Princess Diana died, and and everyone, the Queen was going out for like walks with her corgi dog, and everyone was like, "Yeah, that's how I grew up." I was like, "Yeah, let's go for a walk and never speak of this again."
Yeah.
Just push it
down.
down.
It's a very strange thing. And they don't, push it down.
You push it down.
And my mother's side of the family is from Michigan. And even though we weren't raised with like a lot of sexual shame, nobody ever talked about anything.
Right.
So same thing. Like if you try to talk about anything, my mom just goes, "Oh, well, and that's the whole conversation. You're done."
I recently had a talk with my mom. She was telling me like the worst story ever about like one of her friends. Had this baby that was born, lived like 2 days, like just the worst story. And I was like, gosh, how do you get over something like that? She's like, well, you never mention it. You don't talk about it. You never mention it again. You never don't talk to anybody about it. And life goes on. And that was like, well, I guess that's one way.
Yeah.
And then 7 years later, one day you blow up.
Yeah.
But there was, in New England, there was a very famous, proud boast, which was Kennedys don't cry.
Mm-hmm. Is that true?
Yeah, Kennedys don't cry.
I see.
Maybe if you did, you wouldn't all have been alcoholic tragedies. Why not cry? Everyone in your family has been shot in the head. You don't know anyone that hasn't been shot in the head. Maybe cry.
I remember when I was at my grandfather's funeral and everybody loved him. He was so sweet. It was my mom's dad. And I remember she has two brothers. One of them, his name is Dick. And she goes, well, Dick's a little boo-hoo today. It's like, yeah, his dad just died. Yeah. And so did yours. His beloved dad just died. Yeah. And I believe you're having the same day. Dick's a little boo-hoo. He's a little weepy-weeps today.
Yeah. If you cry to the funeral, you get the fisheye.
This was like 2 years ago. Like, wow.
Sure. Yeah, my uncle's funeral, it was like, ain't nobody crying.
I never understood my mom, like why she was so stoic about everything until we went to Michigan for a funeral.
There you go.
And they were showing us pictures of all my cousins and my uncles. And one of my aunts was like, oh, this is Gustav. We lost him to the lake. And every
to the lake?
To the lake?
Yeah, but every cousin they'd be like, oh, that's Hans. And they'd whisper it. We lost him to the lake. And
what happened in the lake?
I finally realized that meant alcoholism. that's the euphemism for alcoholism.
Oh my God, that's brilliant.
Tell me, wait. What happened?
See, I was so hoping it was some sort of monster.
Me too.
Well, it was.
Why did they call it the lake?
We lost him to the lake means he was an alcoholic who maybe drowned in the lake. I had plenty of cousins and uncles drown because they're fisher people. So that,
Oh, they might have like fallen overboard.
But the other thing was, I had a cousin who had committed suicide and they were like, he was a schizophrenic. And like everybody was whispering it was like this really bad word.
It's very like
the way they whisper Jewish.
Yeah. And I'm like, yeah.
He's Jewish.
It's an interesting thing. And then you come out to LA and it's like, and everybody in LA, you do start talking about stuff. Like it's interesting when you go back to New England and do you try to ever talk about, no, you just know to push it down.
Yeah.
You go back to that well.
I don't go there.
Well, boy.
I don't stay there a long time. People are, I think, just the crush of modernity has forced people to open up a little bit about it. But no, certainly not where I'm from. It's like, yep. Okay, then. Your brother works in a prison, right? 2 brothers work in prisons. That's crazy. One of them was texting me the other day, like he was taking a prisoner to court. Yeah. And we were just texting about something, and then he goes, Gotta go. Can't let the judge see me texting. Too late. Oops. Ha ha.
One of my favorite Dana stories. I just had jury duty, and I remember I did a stand-up show with
how
Dana.
did that go?
I didn't get picked, but I did immediately think guilty. Like the guy had 2 counts. It was going to be like a week-long trial, and it was personal property destruction under $700. I'm thinking, can't we all just fucking pay? Like, I'll pay for it. But then I found out he'd shot 2 of his neighbors' car windows. I was like, okay, well, he's crazy and he's got a gun. Wow. But then I immediately thought guilty. But I remember Dana got put on a trial, and you're not legally allowed to talk about it. I do a stand-up show with Dana. Dana immediately, you cannot pick Dana Gould. Who the fuck picks Dana Gould? Dana Gould gets on stage. It was amazing. He goes, well, it was the first day of the trial. You're like, I'm not supposed to talk about on stage, but it rhymes with schmurder. Some motherfucker put Dana Gould on a murder trial, and I think you were like, guilty. It was amazing. It was like a full house. That was incredible.
And the guy had a public defender who was like, look, maybe he did do it. I don't know. Like, he had the worst PD.
You know what? They're the worst public defenders in this one. They were like, okay, raise your hand if you're a Lakers fan. Okay, now raise your hand. It was like, this better be going somewhere. And it really wasn't.
In voir dire, I was asked.
What's voir dire?
Voir dire is the jury.
When they did the selection. Yeah.
Oddly, I was number 6. So it was like the prisoner. It's like number 6. I felt like Patrick McGowan every day. Is there any reason that you would have a problem being objective in this trial? And I said, well, I have 2 brothers that are in law enforcement.
Yeah.
They were police officers, and now they work for the prison. I was once held at gunpoint by someone doing a gang initiation.
Wow.
So I know that if we accept the fact that he is in a gang, I know he is capable of violence because I've seen it myself.
They picked you.
And they were like, can you hold in a pee? Sure. You're on.
I'm also a stand-up comedian. That is fascinating to me. That's fascinating to me that you got picked after saying that.
Yeah. Right in. But I was older, but the other people, like kids, like 21-year-old, 25-year-old girls out. They always side with the defense.
Oh.
Out.
I hear voir dire too.
I think I actually spoke too well. Well, there's a brilliant George Carlin bit on his last album entitled It's Bad For Ya, which oddly at 72 years old is one of his best albums.
Right.
Where he talks about the lunacy of swearing on the Bible.
Here's another one of these civic customs. Swearing on the Bible. You understand that shit? They tell you to raise your right hand, place your left hand on the Bible. Does this stuff really matter? Which hand? Does God really give a fuck about details like this? Suppose you put your right hand on the Bible, you raise your left hand. Would that count? Or would God say, sorry, wrong hand, try again? Suppose the Bible they hand you to swear on is upside down, or backward, or both, and you swear to tell the truth on an upside down, backward Bible. Would that count? Suppose the Bible they hand you is an old Bible and half the pages are missing. Suppose all they have is a Chinese Bible in an American court, or a Braille Bible and you're not blind. Suppose they hand you an upside down, backward Chinese Braille Bible with half the pages missing.
Speaking of my parents marrying on a dare, when they were swearing that they were going to do it, they couldn't find a Bible. And by the way, my dad's a full atheist, but they found a cookbook.
A full atheist?
A full atheist. They found a cookbook.
Is that a blowjob specialist?
It's a full atheist. It's a
full atheist.
He's a full atheist.
I thought you were saying full atheist, and I thought he was a blowjob man, but you had a speech impediment. That's a great country song. Daddy was a blowjob man.
Daddy was a blowjob man. Mama, Daddy was a blowjob man. They swore on a cookbook. It was how I came to be. Was they were like, all right, we're going to really do this. Like
this means as much as the Bible. For God's
they swore on a cookbook.
Well, I just had to renew. I had to get my daughter's passports.
Yeah.
So I go to the passport agency, and then I have to drive all the way down to Redondo to get sworn in to sign a form, and then drive back.
About what?
That I had to swear that I was their parent.
Because they're adopted, or does anybody have to
anybody has to do it. But it's
so
like,
weird.
If you don't kiss the voodoo stone, your kid can't get a passport.
That's strange.
It's so lunacy.
Wow, I didn't know that. That's so weird.
We're making all the girls go to a foreign country alone this summer. No.
when I moved to LA, I drove down from Portland, and I was living with 2 friends. One very good friend, and the other guy, childhood friend of his, in Venice, California. And the childhood friend of his is a music agent at WME. And so he got us tickets to go see the Roots at midnight at House of Blues.
Wow.
And I was just like, wow, LA. You know, this is like 2003. Yeah. I was just like, this is so cool. And we all got in a cab with this guy who I guess worked with him or something, but was one of those white guys whose head is just beyond Lex Luthor smooth. We're like, did you get your head laser waxed? What did you do? And
God, the smoothness of his head was jaw-dropping.
And, you know, we smoked a little weed and had a couple beers, and we get in this cab and we go. And this guy is a couple of other friends smoked cigarettes, and he was like, man, I wish you guys wouldn't smoke. And it became clear this guy didn't do anything but ecstasy, which he thought was like harmless. But with the ecstasy, he just became insufferable and judgmental and would advise them to not smoke cigarettes and would go on some story of the universe. And you're like, no, get me out of this cab. And I'll never forget going to the concert and being up on the balcony. And I was like, oh my God, that's Ed Norton just sitting there on the rail. Wow. And it's just the whole LA culture shock.
Yeah.
And, you know, me and those guys are getting a little buzzed and stuff, but just having fun and having normal conversations and, oh, I love this song or whatever. And this guy comes over literally holding a bunch of ice cubes in his hands, in both hands. He looks us all in the eyes with these massively dilated pupils and goes, ice is cold, man. It's just like, you're an idiot. Don't ever give anyone advice. You know, here's the difference. But that's how you are when you're that stoned. Yeah. You make these observations that are just dumb. At the time, they blow your mind, but no one else's mind is blown. Everyone else thinks you're a friggin' moron.
Here's the difference between ecstasy and booze. I remember I was in high school. I hear this weird noise in the kitchen, like somebody left the faucet on.
Oh,
I get up, I go into the kitchen, and there's my brother, Kevin, if he's listening, fucking hammered, pissing into a sink full of dishes.
Sure.
And he looks up at me and he goes, fuck you.
Sure.
Right. I'm the bad guy.
Yeah. You heard a noise, ignore it.
Right. You're the one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ma, you better boil some water for those dishes. Yeah.
Well, it's like
but it's like there's that. But I love like to be in that position, to be in his position.
Sure.
I've only been drunk one time.
Yeah, I remember you told me.
And I can't imagine being so drunk that I would ever do that.
Well, it's just,
but also that's your go-to. That you immediately go on the attack.
Well, and it's just because because there was a witness, he had self-awareness, which is a thing you try to avoid when you're getting drunk. You know, I remember taking a bunch of people to Las Vegas when I lived in Chicago, like my friend's bachelor party, like, let's go to Vegas. And everybody who lived in Chicago who maybe had a wife or a girlfriend, but not really a house or anything like that, and were bartenders, were waiters, people that lived and made livings off of alcohol consumption.
Right.
We had these, you know, we'd get drunk, but we're just like, hey, having fun. All the guys that came from the Midwest, that were from Wisconsin and Minnesota, that had families, were plotzed by 6 p.m.
Sure.
I mean, hammered to the point where we're eating Benihana, and the Benihana guy's cracking us up going, you got some real studs, huh? We're the ladies, losers. And we're laughing. We're like, this guy's great. And the one guy goes, why don't you shut up and cook? And we're like, dude, you shut up.
No.
He's being fun.
Yeah.
You're getting all butthurt. And then later in the night, those are the guys that would try to sneak away because they were so hammered they couldn't talk. And they're like, if I could just crawl up to my room, I'll be embarrassed. So you literally caught your brother embarrassing himself. Yeah. And there's a witness, and he's like, I would have got away with it if it wasn't for those you meddling kids.
I don't want to brag. At the end of the day, I'm a regular person, just like anybody else listening to
No
this
one
podcast.
believes that. You're a star, Dana.
I was at the Renaissance Fair.
Oh, that is a brag.
2 weekends ago.
And you got free turkey legs?
I did not give it. It was so funny. I went with my kids, and we bumped into April Richardson and Chris Hardwick and a bunch of people. So my poor kids have to spend the day with me and a bunch of other comics.
Sure.
God bless. And the story I was going to say was, but we're watching Chris sword fight with his girlfriend.
Okay.
Fiance, whatever.
Sure.
I'm assuming that's news. I'm assuming that's not news.
Yeah.
They're sword fighting, and we're watching them because they're getting like a lesson. And my daughter goes, Dad, look. And behind the corner, there's like, a knight. Brrr, like just
barfing?
Horging out. Yeah, you put on your buccaneer
Did he open
boots.
his visor? Or was it just seeping out the side? It's coming out the neckline?
It was coming out like the Fuzzy Pumper barbershop.
He blew the visor open. He forgot he had it on. He thought it was the middle of the night in his bathroom at home.
The visor door blew open like a poorly constructed dam.
It burst open and then flapped down, cutting the stream a couple times. But as it flapped open, you just saw a violently confused expression from inside.
Yeah.
Just a pale, overweight guy who spent all morning getting himself into that suit.
And he was probably looking forward to this for months.
And thought he could handle mead like a real knight could.
And to be at the Renaissance Fair is distressing enough. To be there. By the way, people don't know this, but the Renaissance Fair and Ill-Advised Bustier Fest are the same event.
Oh, no. No, that was my question. I was going to be like, how much no thank you cleavage did you catch?
They're not. I mean, when it's like no bosom is parallel to the ground.
Sure. Well, and to me, it's almost like that's just kind of a adorable thing. That I'm just like, you're
happy.
You're
this is
do
the
what you
deal.
can to make it like you are the least of what's like nothing's wrong with this. But if anything is, it's not you.
No,
you can
absolutely no.
Strap your boobs together with ropes, whatever you're doing. Make them come between the straps, so you basically have 8 cleavages.
It's like your boobs are like the elephants bringing Alexander the Great over the mountains.
Completely. Yeah.
Or Peter the Great, whoever rode elephants.
Yeah,
one of the great guys. One of the greats.
But the worst is the knight barfing.
Yeah,
out
the
of his
drunken barfing knight.
I can understand if it was from a concussion, like when he got hit with the jousting stick. But that's not why.
No. And, just the difference in my kids. My youngest daughter got like a little, just like a hair bonnet thing with like deer antlers and flowers.
Oh yeah,
it looked adorable. She looked like a little sprite.
Mm.
And then my other daughter got like a mask, like that she wanted, like a cool mask that she hung on the wall of her room. And my oldest daughter got a dagger.
She's growing up.
I have it. It's just like I'll
That's
keep it in my room.
fantastic.
It's just she's like, and I'm the worst. Like, Dad, can I have it? No, you can't have a dagger. Come on. Oh, all right, I want to go.
Fine, but I'll keep it.
Yeah, but it's like I want to go. Come on, we gotta go.
Yeah,
just give her the fucking dagger.
Well, I think it's certainly a sign of the times. You know what I mean? That there isn't like that's not for girls.
Yeah, no, not at all.
Yeah,
come on, I want a dagger.
Think back in those times, a woman had to carry a dagger.
Because she's 13, I was just glad she didn't want a bustier.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's exactly what I'm sure went through your mind.
Keep this with you.
Yeah.
Oh god.
Oh, but there's enough walking cautionary tales, I'm sure, for her to go. I don't want one.
Yeah.
I don't want to be like this lady with wine smeared lips and.
But I always, but I have the same attitude as that I see when I go to Comic-Con. As where are you people during the week?
Yeah,
I never see you. And there are dudes like with long hair and crazy, Fenwick mustaches, and they really do the whole thing. Like, where are you during the day?
Yeah,
I never see you around.
No, yeah.
Where are the Renaissance people on a Tuesday at 4?
Probably in like editing bays or moving camera equipment.
Yeah, community college music department.
Yeah, well, I think my point is that they're not news anchors. They're not local news anchors. You don't have
But if they were...
You don't have the guy the Comic-Con guy whose head is shaved and surgically modified to be Klingon.
Yes.
Being like,
and other news.
Down from Sun Valley. Please stop staring at my head.
The traffic coming over the 5 is Sorry.
I slipped.
And if he was giving the newscast in his Klingon head and had a heart attack, he would, just before he died,
and even that would be a hard, throaty shit. It would be very, very dark and violent.
It's in the tone of this entire conversation that I will leave everyone with a recommendation. Go on YouTube and look for TV Weatherman Diarrhea and thank me later.
That's a thing?
I'll show it to you right now.
Oh, yes, I'm excited.
I also wonder, because of the pornification of our culture or the difficulty in getting away from it. When I was a kid, you used to have to go find it. And now you can't get away from it. If you have a phone, it's ubiquitous. Do young men who were raised looking at porn since they were of their age of sexual awareness, say 13, by the time they're actually meeting women, will be conservative, 16, do they expect porn performance level action when they're having sex? Like, do they expect all of the crazy positioning and grotesque
I think they do, and I think like
places
at least
people
what my
ejaculate in porn.
Yeah, like what my teenagers have told me. I think it skews for men or for young men and young women. Like what you were saying, like when you were young, just getting laid was a really big deal, and now it's like I think young men expect porn quality of sex, where they're expecting oral sex or they're expecting anal, where I think like that would not have been, even when I was young, and that was like definitely not the case. And I think young women feel really pressured to be porn star quality. Like I know some young women have told me like that when they were teenagers, like they would be with a guy and the guy would be grossed out that they had pubic hair and be like, oh, that's disgusting. You have pubic hair. Oh God. This is some sweet young 16-year-old. She has like the cutest little triangle of pubic hair. She doesn't even have like the full lady wing spread yet. No, she's not even waxing.
Lady wing, by the way, I should say Lady Wing Spread is at the Roxy tomorrow night.
Oh my God, I love them.
It's the name of my first album.
It's so good.
I don't understand that. And I think it's also like having daughters that I've raised and changed many a diaper. I don't get that at all. The totally denuded female form, I find a completely creepy pedophilic turnoff. It's people whose bodies are natural is like a specialty niche audience.
Yeah, you have to look for it.
Yeah, it's like, I look like a giant baby with boobs.
I think it would be hard to be coming of age now.
Yeah.
My son is 13 and he's autistic, so maybe there's some difference.
Oh, now we feel bad.
No.
Way to go. Way to throw the trump, Emma.
Well, it was time to I needed to have the talk with him and sat him down. And so I was telling him you're going to be masturbating and you're going to have these feelings. And he was like, typical, I know. I don't need to talk about this.
Yeah.
I already know all this.
I'm doing it under the table right now.
Yeah. But he was like, yeah, I know. But then I was like, have you looked at porn? Have you ever seen porn? And he was like, am I in trouble? And I was like, no, I just want to have an honest conversation. Aww. He was like, yeah, I've looked at porn a little bit. And so then I had the you have to be careful that sex isn't really like that. And he was like, no. He stopped me and was like, you don't have to worry. I know how to open an incognito window. So I've figured it out. Neither one of you you're from New England, so you don't know what an incognito is. Jeff?
What is it?
Jeff knows. Yeah.
What is it?
Yeah, I didn't know either when she told me this earlier.
So if you want to look at porn, on your phone or your laptop, but you don't want somebody to see your browser history, you open an incognito tab and then you can look at, or window, you can look at it without it tracking.
Okay.
Yeah. So he was like, don't worry, I already know how to do that so that nobody else can see what you're looking at. And I was like, that wasn't really my concern.
I like that he was worried that you were worried about his browser history.
I know. I was like, well, he was worried. He was worried that the younger siblings would accidentally find it. And so he was making sure to cover his tracks. But I was kind of like, oh, that's not really what I was talking about. So it's a weird place because your kid is gonna probably find porn.
Of course they are.
Whether you tell them not to or
they will, trust me.
Of course they will.
Yeah. So I instead was just had the talk with him about he's a very science-based kid. So like neuroplasticity and like your dopamine levels and da-da-da-da-da. And he was like, I totally get it. I totally understand. Aww. He probably is still looking at porn, but
It is interesting that when you know what is going on physiologically, it does take a lot of the juju out of it. I had handy access to porn.
Oh, yeah.
At far too young of an age. Mm-hmm. And will say unequivocally, did not benefit from it.
Well, I didn't have visual porn. Yeah. Because we weren't allowed to watch TV and I was very sheltered. Right. But I was allowed to read whatever I wanted. And when I was 10, I bought a box of books at a yard sale that were all not romance novels, like V.C. Andrews porn.
Yeah.
And I got very young, like addicted to book porn basically and read through them over and over and over.
Is that
and
the Flowers in the Attic?
Oh yeah. And
I remember
Sweet Audrina.
We all read that when we were like 11 and 12. Oh, yeah. Everybody was reading
the book My Sweet Audrina. I went back and read it as an adult when I was My Sweet Audrina.
I never read that one.
It is so filthy. It has incest and bondage and spanking and like
these are a few of my favorite things.
Well, we did. We all read those books,
we all did.
And they were all like total incest.
Have
they
you
were
read
all
How
so
a Person
dirty.
Should Be?
No.
There's a new novel. It's sort of like it was just reviewed in the New York Times a couple weeks ago. It's a new popular novel, How a Person Should Be, about this young woman that falls in love with this guy. And it's filthy.
Did you read it?
Yeah.
It's filthy.
It's filthy. I mean, I breezed through it in an hour, but it was like
he just highlighted the sexy parts.
I loved the title. I thought the title was a great title, so I was just at books. I'll pick it up. Waiting in line at school for my kids to get out of school. What the fuck?
I know. I remember my mom didn't know. My mom, she's a big reader and she didn't know anything about 50 Shades of Grey. So but she knew had been on the bestseller list. So it was right when it came out. She went and bought it. And then she was like, oh my goodness. And then my dad, I remember it was during the big hurricane in New York, like the huge one that just flew out lower Manhattan. My dad was like staying with my brother in Brooklyn because they had power, and they kept texting me photos of like your father, 7 a.m., middle of the living room, just sprawled out reading 50 Shades of Grey.
Fantastic.
Oh my God. They were all so grossed out by
I've not read it. It's
really dirty.
But it's also abhorrently written.
No,
isn't it?
It's badly written.
It's not even that.
I didn't read it.
It's not that dirty.
It is to written erotica what Warrant is to metal. It's like, you can do so much better than this.
It's people even now, like fans will tweet screenshots of the worst writing in it, and they're hilarious. Like there's a website for it too that shows all the worst.
There's literally a sentence in there like, oh my God, is he wearing a white shirt? It's terrible.
Yeah. They're very poor and like
secretary porn.
Secretary porn.
Yeah.
And
it feels like a nod, like I'm going to be bad. And
like your
I thought you had
parents.
the movie Secretary, which is really
great,
good.
Which is very good.
Movie. Yeah.
Especially if you like to watch James Spader beat off on an employee.
James Spader was the king of dirty stuff. Remember? Like he was in so many good dirty movies.
Yeah. I love that movie. I felt like it really respectfully, treated a BDSM relationship like this is an okay thing. Yeah, this is just something adults do and need sometimes. It's fine.
Maggie Gyllenhaal, never been better. She was great.
She was great in that.
Yep.
Yeah,
adorable.
People would always ask like, "Oh, are your books like 50 Shades of Grey?" And I was like, "No, that's like a romance novel, and mine's a book of fucking, just fucking, all fucking." So yeah.
How many did you write?
Oh,
and
so
all
many.
set during the Battle of Antietam in acutely realistic Civil War jargon.
Yeah.
I only read the first 2 Shades of Grey because on it, like the biggest thing I had a problem with.
Do you want to plug your books? Like, do you want to say?
No. I don't.
And I'll cut.
I'm not public about my pen name.
Anything you want me to cut?
Oh no, I'm fine. I'm not public with my pen names
friendship with you.
at all. Well, okay, I'm gonna go.
Did they pay well?
Oh, they paid. Part of the reason I've had some cushion with doing comedy when I really was like, I'm going to go and do this full time is from the residuals.
Good for you.
Not as much anymore because I used to interact with the FetLife community quite a bit.
I don't know what that is.
It's like Facebook for fetishists.
Oh, okay.
And so I would, as my pen name, had different profiles.
There's a what?
Yeah. And like with the Reddit communities and stuff. And so as my pen name.
What's Reddit communities?
It's like a content aggregator, Reddit.
Huh?
I was an early adopter and I've had like a bunch of different usernames, but I've had one forever. And it has been nice in the last year to watch people start to be a little more civil. Like I feel like as more minorities and women have moved into it, like a lot of people have had to be more civil.
People get pretty mean online when they can hide behind a computer.
Yeah, when you can hide behind a computer, it's people's real nature. That's why a lot of weird behavior happens on Halloween because you're in a mask.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh my God. I was in New York last Halloween. Holy
if Darth
smokes.
Vader wasn't in the mask, he'd be like, "Hey, how you doing? Sorry, man.
Hey, man, I'm Darth Vader.
It's just a military installation. It's not a big deal."
I didn't know about Reddit. I'm busy.
Yeah.
I have a lot going on.
You do.
You do. Including a nice beard.
Yeah.
4-day growth. Yeah, I've never had a beard.
And it's well trimmed. It's like, it looks like
I don't want it to be a big grubby thing.
Depression
No,
beard?
you've shaped it.
It's not a depression beard.
No,
at
it's
all.
like a, hey ladies.
It's
My name
not
is
a
Gould.
hey ladies beard at all.
G. Gould.
It's a I'm playing a cemetery caretaker beard.
I gotta say,
in a TV
I bet
show.
you get ladies with this beard.
I might have a victim.
Sandra Bullock.
Well, Sandy.
I might be dating Sandra Bullock. You don't know that.
You don't know.
You don't know I'm not dating Rosemary's ghost.
I might be dating
her I
Magic.
love
Actually,
her
she's
in
alive.
Practical Magic.
Oh my God, she was great in Practical
great in
Magic.
Practical
So
Magic.
tall and pretty.
I might be dating Bette Midler.
Oh, I like her as a
fun.
mermaid.
She seems fun.
She probably, I bet she needs a lot of attention, but fun.
a lot. I don't know. It's all new to me.
Okay.
I enjoy it. I just look so much like my father with my beard. It's somewhat ridiculous. But I've only had I had a Van Dyke, which was just the lip and chin, in 1994 for 2 weeks when that was mandatory.
Yeah, sure.
You couldn't get car insurance if you didn't have a Van Dyke in 1994.
Van Dyke. I think it youths you up. I think you should keep it. Because the kids all have the beard.
I might have it for a while. My kids hate it.
Sure.
Oh.
Because it's itchy.
Oh,
when I kiss them. My daughter, I kissed my youngest daughter on the top of the head. Okay, buddy, bye-bye. Daddy, you hurt me.
Oh.
Hurt me with a beard.
It was a joy getting to meet you, I have to say. You're a delight.
You too. This was super fun.
I wish you luck in your travels while you're here.
Thank you.
I hope to see you again.
Me too.
I hope you have fun at your festival in Indiana.
Yes.
And what I liked is we solved nothing.
Yeah.
You know what? We did. We solved nothing.
Maybe we brought you guys a half an inch out of the shame hole.
Maybe
a half an inch.
Finally.
This is my daughter rapping. We'll leave it on this.
I'm a DJ, I'm a DJ, I'm a person, I'm a person, I'm a singer, I'm a singer, I love to sing and DJ. Boom! Peace out, you want me? Peace out. Boom. I sent to Dad.
Other podcasts reach for the sky. Dana Gould Hour.
We barely try.
The Dana Gould Hour. Listen all the time and give us all your money. That's all we ask. This has been the Dana Gould Hour, brought to you by the Internet. Music by Andy Paley, with Jake Posner behind the board. Produced by Jeff Fox. Graphic design and web production by Spencer Hunt and Segan Friend. Sound editing and post-production by Jalinda Palmer and Joe Napolitano. Hey, if you like the show, why don't you drop us a line at show@danagould.com. Tom Kenny speaking.
This is gold. I don't care how old you are.